I was born in the northern part of Nigeria. It's a Muslim part of Nigeria. But my father was from the south and my mother was from the east. I grew up in a place called Lagos. When I was at school, like you, there are a couple of things I wanted to do. My first dream, I keep telling this and people are always a little bit disappointed. My first dream, I wanted to be a pirate. An old-fashioned Robert Louis Stevenson pirate. Not a modern Somalia pirate. I'm talking like an old-fashioned, a really good pirate. Not one with one leg, by the way, or one eye. But there weren't, where I grew up, there weren't many ships around, so I didn't get a chance to be a pirate, which is one of my great shames. And then after that, I was interested in becoming a physicist. I was interested in mathematics, chemistry, biology, physics. I was very interested in how things worked, how the mind works, how the universe works. And then the civil war in Nigeria happened. The war was a war between two different groups, and my mother was on one side and my father was on the other. Most of the war was spent with me and my father and my brothers trying to hide my mother from the other tribe so they wouldn't kill her. This happened when I was about 7, 8. About 2 million people died in this war in Nigeria. It was the first really brutal civil war to affect Africa. And to this day, Nigeria is very deeply affected by it. Anyway, after the war, when I was about 10, I began to read a lot. I read my books from my father's library. And one day, I came upon a book which told the story of a cave. And you won't believe this, but this story of the cave was the beginning of the awakening of my imagination. By this time, we were living in a very poor part of Lagos. I didn't have a room to myself. We shared a room with my brothers. My father's life had gone down. We were broke, we were poor. And one day, the whole family went out, and I was at home, and it began to rain. And because it rained, everybody was outside, and for the first time in years, I was alone in the house. And you know, I did something very strange when I was alone in the house and it was raining outside. I took a piece of paper and I drew what was on the mantelpiece. I spent about 20 minutes with this drawing. It was a very bad drawing. Probably one of the worst drawings you'll ever see. And then after that, I took another piece of paper and I wrote a poem. Guess what I wrote the poem about? Rain. Absolutely. I wrote a poem about the rain that was falling.
I have a thing for writing. I love writing stories. So would you like to give some advice for like young writers about how to structure their story, how to put it together?
How do you structure a story? I think first of all, you have to let the story tell itself. Yeah? Yeah, do you understand me? First of all, you have to let the story tell itself. Now, there are three things about writing a story that you need to understand. The first thing is you have to know where to start. Yeah? A lot of people who want to write stories, they start in the wrong place. Sometimes they start at the very beginning of the story. One day there was a shoemaker who fell in love with this dark-eyed girl across the street. They start from the very beginning, the very first day the shoemaker saw this girl. But maybe that's not the best place to start it. Maybe the place to start the story is after the shoemaker has seen this girl for a long time, and then the story starts with the day that the shoemaker decides to talk to her. Do you get what I'm saying? So where you start your story is very, very important. If you start it too early, you could spend a long time writing a lot of rubbish, and then you lose interest in it. Yeah? The second thing about writing a story that you need to understand is you have to have a feeling for where your story is going. Yeah? So about this shoemaker, are they going to get married, or is the girl going to say to him, I'm not interested in you because you're a shoemaker? You have to have a feeling at some point for where your story is going, where it's going to end. You don't have to have that at the beginning, but when you're writing a story, if you don't have a sense of where it's going to end, you could be going all over the place. Yeah? Finally, for the structuring of a story, the structure of a story is in 3 parts. It's really very simple. Beginning, middle, end. Sometimes it can be end, middle, beginning. It depends on how you can arrange it any way you want. You don't have to start at the beginning. You can start at the end, go back to the beginning, and end in the middle. But you have to, in your mind, have a sense of the key points of the story. Yeah? Yeah? It's good to start halfway rather than at the bottom. Yeah? And it's good to end not at the top, but just before the top. Yeah?
I'm myself writing a book for the last 1 year, but as you said, it's really boring. Keep on going in that. But the thing is that every time I sit in front of a computer screen just to type it up, I hit one glass ceiling that should I project my mind into the protagonist, or should I be that third person who's just telling the story? What would you prefer?
How many pages have you written?
73, 74.
Okay. Now the answer to your question is this. You are the writer of the book, yeah? As the writer of the book, you should know almost everything about the whole world that you're writing about. So you should know all the protagonists. You should know all the characters. You should know them. You should know their background, their childhood, the food they like, what their dreams are. You should know them, yeah? So you should project yourself into your characters, but at the same time, you should stand outside. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very, very difficult being a novelist because you have to do 2 things at the same time. You know, sometimes my friends ask me about what it is to be a novelist, and I say it's actually a harder job than the job that David Cameron has got. Because David Cameron just has to be prime minister of a country, but when you're writing a novel, you have to be prime minister of a universe. Yeah? So that's what I want you to understand. You have to be everywhere in your book, every part of it, but at the same time you have to be outside of it. Yeah? You only get to be able to be outside of it by giving yourself distance from the book. Maybe you're too close to it now. Maybe you need to put the computer away, go play football for a bit, give it a couple of months, and then come back to it so you can see it fresh. Do you understand what I'm saying? The other advice I'd give to you is, at this stage, don't be afraid. Just let yourself go. Yeah? Just don't stop in the middle of a book you're writing. Just go on even if you think you're writing rubbish. Just go on and on till you get to the end. Yeah? And then stop. Yeah? And then give yourself a break and then come back to it. In the meantime, keep reading. Yeah? Read the books you like over and over again so you understand how writers that you like really do it. Yeah? And don't just read modern writers like me. Also read the classics. Yeah? Read people like Robert Louis Stevenson, R.K. Narayan. You know, read the older writers. Yeah? Read Shakespeare. Yeah? Tagore. And good luck.
Basically, a storyteller, he portrays his ideas with words and sentences, and in a way which a person feels that he's a part of the story. And in poetry, a poet illustrates his ideas and adds imagery frame it and make one whole meaning out of it.
The storyteller is a walker. The poet is a dancer. I'll give you another set of divisions. The storyteller touches your imagination with a magic finger. There. But the poet touches your spirit. Now what happens? Now I want to ask you, what happens when the storyteller is a poet? You want to come and answer this? Oh no, okay, I thought you were being very brave. What happens when the storyteller is a poet? They do that. They touch your imagination and your spirit at the same time.